Welcome back to part 3 of the Big Small Business Show. I'm Michael Avery, standing in for Lon Reyes, Chief Excitement Officer of Reyes Corp, who's in the Zoom room, along with someone who needs very little introduction, Andile Khumalo, founder of I'm an Entrepreneur and CEO of KhumaloCo, a special investment firm with interests in media and technology, doing some amazing things in the podcast space. He's also a chartered accountant, but nobody's perfect. Andile, welcome, and along to you. Good to see you beaming again. Andile, we're talking just now with SAICA about a lot of the tax issues, and it's really not something that gets many entrepreneurs excited in the morning and out of bed to go and file their VAT returns. But it's an important cash flow decision for businesses right now. Should I pay my employees or pay my VAT?
Well, let's talk about what happens when your business is short of cash, which is for most entrepreneurs a monthly thing, right? So even if we hit the revenues, there's always clients who are going to pay late. So you become a pro at managing cash flows. And the way I approach it is that the most important person gets paid first. So the one that's going to hurt me the most is the one that gets the money first. So if I have a supplier, I know I can't run my business without, he's getting paid first. Even if he doesn't get all the money, but he's getting some of the money because I got to protect my business. And then I go to the things that matter to me most, which is probably going to be staff, to make sure that my people get paid first or get paid next, and then I'll care about everybody else. So frankly, right now, I think the filtration system is who's least important. One, I'm sorry for landlords and all those guys that own property, but I do not think many entrepreneurs out there have a lot of sympathy for you, because what are you going to do? You're going to kick me out? Who's going to come back in? You almost have to wait. You almost have to see this through with me. So landlords probably not. And I would argue that as much as the state needs the money, and South Africa needs as much money as possible to help fight this pandemic, it's unfortunate that many people are probably going to take the penalty. From what I heard earlier on in your conversation, SARS is still penalizing people for late submissions of returns or late payments of the taxes, particularly things like VAT and I guess even PAYE. I think people are going to take the 10% hit, and they're going to take the interest charge if they had to choose that or between that and kind of paying their people or the most important suppliers. And like I said, landlords are probably joining the queue.
And Alon, I think that's the right way to go about things, because long-term, structurally, it's very difficult to revive a business that's failed, that's hit the wall. You want as many SMEs to still be here to fight another day as government, so that they can continue to be taxpayers in the long term. So I think a great answer there by Andile.
Yeah, for me, I'll just add one thing to what Andile said, is that it's not just who I need most, it's also who will find me the quickest. And that's also the speed at which you get caught or somebody pursues. And so I would also concur with Andile that I would follow that. And one of the things that we're supposedly not supposed to say, what is the practical thing versus what's the legal thing here? I think practicality is going to win the day right now versus what is the legal framework. I think a lot of frameworks and how things are done is going to change. We've just seen something in the world which I don't think anyone could have predicted, that oil was at a negative price. It's just the most bizarre concept to conceive. And in a world with that kind of thing going on, I think there's going to be a lot of different thinking that's going to have to take place, and that includes government right now in terms of tax.
I mean, that kind of dislocation perfectly sums up where we are in the world right now, Andile. All asset prices have dislocated because of this huge global systemic shock of COVID-19. If you shut the world down and force 4 billion people to go and sit in their homes like we're doing, well, you're doing at least, I'm an essential service, we have to get out there and be in the studio, that is what happens. At the same time, even though this is a different world, I think ethical leadership remains critical, because people will remember the way you behaved and responded and reacted now when the dust of COVID-19 settles.
I was telling a friend just the other day that, this is the time to build. This is the time to build real relationships and be there for your customers. And being there for your customers doesn't mean putting out the invoice first. A lot of clients, and just like all of us, are just trying to figure this out. And if you're smart, the people that will remember, the people that will be remembered, hopefully when we all get through this, are the people that were there for you. So even I, as a business, when I look at my suppliers, there are certain guys that are just kind of issuing an invoice. They're not checking how I'm doing. There's no WhatsApp. There's no phone call about how life is in kind of quarantine or self-isolation. But clients care about that. So I also think that, exactly to your point, the world will shift in terms of how we do business. And I think that's actually a positive thing, because I do think that the world largely has been about kind of a cold-hearted, go in, get as much as you can and get out of there, and don't really care about how the other person survives. I think all that's happening around the world, when you start seeing those stats, when you start seeing those mass graves, when you start seeing how this thing that didn't exist before December suddenly is here and is impacting on life across the world, you have to really start thinking about how you live your life and what are your values and what's more important. And hopefully the world of business will start taking that into account in how we do things. But certainly at this time, if you can do nothing else, be there for your customers and help them as much as you can in whatever it is they're trying to figure it out. Because the truth is, we're all trying to figure it out. Nobody's got all the answers to what we're facing.
Yeah, and to add on to that, Alon, also to be there for your staff and your employees. There's been a wonderful sense of collegiality, camaraderie amongst the employees at Classic, where I work, and just providing this sort of essential service and getting together and sort of rallying the troops every morning. And this is also a time when, let's face it, we've got very high incidence of things like depression, stress, medically related burnout issues. So important as an entrepreneur to be mindful of your employees as much as your customers here.
Yes. 100%, and what I'm also seeing now, more importantly, is the leadership is being dispersed right across the organization. We are in hierarchical environments, but what I've noticed right now is that leadership is popping out everywhere within our organization and organizations that I work with. Just also coming back to Andile's the question around the ethical behavior right now. What I'm seeing right now is actually a consciousness about a different way, but also opportunists coming into this environment. And I send out a thing every 3 times a week called EFA, email from Alon internally to my team. And on Friday, I spoke about our ethics. And the one thing that we have to do right now is remain ethical in every single attempt at going through that ethics. And on Friday last week, one of my sales team was put into a very, very tough situation where he was effectively told, either you do it this way, you're going to lose us. And without even consulting me, he said, we will lose you. We would rather lose you. And what is amazing for me is not just that the leadership is being dispersed, but in organizations with strong ethical values, that ethics is being dispersed as well throughout the organization.
Yeah, and that pressure to say yes at all costs when revenues are drying up is immense. So give that man a bells or a raise. I'll leave that up to you, Alon. Andile, if we look at the world of the future, you mentioned that landlords are sort of really at the back end of the queue here. There's been a lot of publicity around the agreement between retail landlords and tenants. A lot of the tenants playing hardball with the big listed REITs at the moment. But ultimately, the power is in the hands of the tenants right now. The landlord and that kind of model is rapidly changing. As we're seeing, we can do business from home. That's going to be a fundamental shift, isn't it? How do you see that playing out?
Absolutely, it's a fundamental shift. And the funny thing, of course, Michael, is that this technology existed long before COVID-19. We all knew. We often did it only when, somebody is from a different city or from a different country. But, I would get in my car and I would drive to Race Corp's offices if I wanted to see Alon. He would do the same. That's just what he did. But now we are finding that this actually works for so many reasons. And because it'll take a while before we have a vaccine, before we have a proven way to treat this virus, I suspect that this behavior, even though the laws may not be locked down, I think that from just a human behavior, from just a comfort and a feel safe perspective, people are going to do it more and more. So I do expect that a lot of businesses are going to fundamentally change. And I guess that talks to who are the guys that are going to survive? And it's got to be the people that are comfortable with disruption, that understand change, that don't fear it, that have learned that you have to embrace it, because it's the only thing you can't change is change itself, right? So I think the guys in property will have to really rethink how to do this. Of course, there's other opportunities. I think online retail, I certainly expect it to grow much bigger or faster than it probably did before, because now there's almost a reason, there's almost an impetus as to why you'd rather go and search for something on any of the online platforms that exist and get it delivered to your home than get into your car and walk around in a crowded mall searching for stuff and having human contact, at least for the next, 12 to 18 months until we find some kind of a vaccine for this. So I do think being a property owner that's relied on human contact and congregation and gathering, things may be fundamentally different. And even the way you bill, even the way you charge your clients, a lot of the businesses that we are invested in, we are seeing a lot of those conversations with our landlords at the company level, where we're saying, look, we're still going to need an office, but we don't want to pay this rate per square meter anymore. You know why? Because, X percentage of our people are not going to be coming in and using the desks anymore. So there's going to be a lot of disruption. And what I fear most, Michael, is the fact that people will take too long to adapt. Those big guys with the big balance sheets and the big banks and the big market caps are going to try and hold on to the business model of the past. And I suspect the consumer is going to shift them. I suspect the consumer is going to have to push them over the edge.
Well, I mean, that's manna to the ears of the nimble, agile SME out there who can move quickly, who can fail fast and pivot to your earlier point there, Andile. Alon, it's about that mindset, though, isn't it, to be able to spot the opportunity and then embrace it and fail fast and pivot quickly. What advice would you have as a concluding thought?
Well, just to maybe use this as an example, we're involved in a business called TV, the Business Exchange. And in the beginning, I was very nervous about all these small businesses that were not going to be able to pay. But something counterintuitive happened, is, to Andile's point, is that all of a sudden now medium and large businesses were now inquiring as to move into flexible workspace, because they not only want smaller offices, as Andile said, but they also want the freedom of not having a long-term lease. So all these shifts are going to happen, and if you're not watching these things, you're going to miss the boat. My mentor said to me, I phoned him overseas, and he said, this is the ship is coming in for so many people, and everyone's going to be looking at the dinghies, and not looking up to see the big opportunity that's presenting. And so I think we should all look up and see the opportunity that is presenting right now.
Well, Alon Reyes, Chief Excitement Officer at Raise Corp, and Andile Khumalo, thank you so much for your insights. Let's hope we're not looking up and seeing from the deck of the Titanic an iceberg coming, and rather seeing that opportunity that you mentioned. It certainly is a very interesting time for small business, and there you have it from those who make it their business to know business. From me, Michael Avery, great pleasure being in your company again, hosting